answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I want you to understand, and everyone should know, that Iran poses a very grave threat to the United States and has for a very long time. They are in possession, first and foremost, after their nuclear program was obliterated, they were told not to try to restart it, and here they are. You can see them always trying to rebuild elements of it. They're not enriching right now, but they're trying to get to the point where they ultimately can. The other thing I would point you to, however, is that Iran possesses a very large number of ballistic missiles, particularly short-range ballistic missiles that threaten the United States and our bases in the region and our partners in the region, and all of our bases in the UAE, in Qatar, in Bahrain, and they also possess naval assets that threaten shipping and try to threaten the U.S. Navy. So I want everyone to understand that, and beyond just a nuclear program, they possess these conventional weapons that are solely designed to attack America and attack Americans if they so choose to do so.
Secretary of State Rubio making it very clear, we're not just looking at Iran because of their nuclear program, which is obviously the key thing on our table that we need to be concerned about. What we also need to be worried about is what they can do with ballistic missiles. And President Trump has even made that very clear. He said Iran's ballistic missiles can reach the U.S. with a little bit more development. They could have that development by 2035 at the minimum, using space launch technology, acting like, oh, we're building missiles to go into space. Into space, my arse, you want to hit the USA. We cannot allow this to continue. We cannot allow it. We are obviously worried about the nuclear facilities they're trying to reconstruct. And that's a direct threat to Israel and all the Middle East and the world. But now ballistic missiles that could hit our nation, they're saying we're just firing a rocket up to test a space program. No one here believes that. They know we don't believe it, but they continue to tell the lie. And I don't see a single Democrat coming out and saying this is a legitimate concern. No, all they want to do is go after Trump if he even takes any action against Iran. Well, you need our approval. We need to make sure you're fully transparent. Are you expecting transparency from the Iranian government? Just how stupid are you? Don't bother answering that. I think we all know. Welcome to hour number one, Larry Connors USA. And yes, once again, we're out of the gates like a bull. We got a lot to cover today. I mean, we're going to be charging in a lot of different directions. And I remind you, we're here every Monday through Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. And when Larry Connors USA is on the air, you are going to get news, analysis, opinion, and education. You're going to leave this hour with more information than you have right now. I promise you that. And reminding you, you can watch this live. Simply go to NewsTalkSTL Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, Larry Connors USA Rumble. And if you miss any part of our program, audio or video, and you want to go back and pull it up, or more importantly, you want to share it with others, go to NewsTalkSTL Podcast, LarryConnorsUSA.com, Larry Connors USA Facebook, and then push share. Send it on to others. We're reaching all across the nation with your help, and around the world when you get down to it. In our next hour, Hillary did her Epstein closed-door deposition yesterday. Immediately came out and complained, no, this is a bunch of nonsense. And they tried to break the rules we set in place. See, she agreed to go in there. There were only certain rules were followed. And apparently they did not follow the rules exactly at some point. She said, there's nothing to learn. I don't know nothing. I know nothing. But today, Bill Clinton was in there. And he's definitely had contact with Epstein. And again, it's a closed-door deposition. You're hearing things, of course, that might have taken place after his deposition, but this material is being gathered to present as a public presentation, which ironically is what Hillary was saying when she came out. This should have all been made public. Let the whole public see it. She can say that. I don't think you're going to hear Bill Clinton say, oh, yeah, let's go full public with it. But that's where it's going to end up. And the Democrats continue to attack ICE. Continue to attack ICE and say that they are a threat to our nation. They're illegals. They're not such a threat. But again, I ask, where are the leftists who are willing to come forward and say, I will sign up to be a caretaker and be responsible for an illegal that you're going to deport. They can live with my family. They can bunk in the room with my children. No one's going to do that. They don't want them in their home. They don't care if they go into your home. That's later in our next hour. Later this hour, more evidence of a deep state. Kristi Noem's gone down this road before, but some of the stuff she's detailing I think is worth re-mentioning, because it's not just against Donald Trump. It's against our country. There's some useful idiots inside the deep state. They think they're just targeting Trump. They don't realize, I guess, that some of that same intel and information is going direct to the Chi-Com and the Russians. And our story behind the story. We have had 2 vice presidents resign in our history. 2. The last one resigning after facing federal and other, felony charges of bribery and kickbacks. That's our story behind the story today. Back to the issue with Iran, which is pressing. The fingers are on the trigger. They're just waiting for the order. Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton.
Remember, they believe for 47 years that they can't win a war, but they can win any negotiation. I think with Donald Trump, they're likely to lose both. As you said, they're refusing to stop enriching uranium. That was a central demand of the president going back 10 years. And as Marco Rubio very critically pointed out, this is not just about their nuclear program. They have thousands of ballistic missiles that threaten our bases in the Middle East, in Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. Some of them can even range our bases in Europe. And they want to build missiles, as the president and Marco have said, to reach the United States. They have a space launch program, Sean. When was the last time you heard of Iran putting an astronaut into space? The reason they have that space launch program is it's the exact same technology that would be used to build intercontinental missiles to hit us here in the United States. We cannot allow Iran to continue to build this massive missile arsenal to threaten our people, our homeland, our troops, and our friends.
No, we can't do that. Of course, he was appearing on with Sean Hannity last night. And the U.S. is adopting a new tactic. We are apparently positioning the first dedicated one-way kamikaze drones for use against Iran. These are drones we're going to send up, and we don't care if they come back. We want them to crash into a particular site. And apparently we have hundreds ready to go. Iran may have already heard about it. If not, they're going to hear about it. And if they still don't get it, they might get one in their lap. These are not, obviously, manned drones. These are robotic drones, and we're going to send them in to targets already designated. They're not going to have to go in and try to shoot a particular target. They're going to right down the chute at that target. The talks the other day wrapped up yesterday with the key envoys for both sides. For our side, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Again, pressing Tehran, dismantle your primary nuclear facilities right now and shut down your ballistic missile program. Tehran walked away and said no. So there are more talks. Listen to that. More talks are scheduled next week. It is a rope-a-dope to some extent, as we talked about, but these are going to be low-level talks. No one's expecting anything to come out of them. And there is a reason, actually, that the U.S. is willing to play a little rope-a-dope. Niall Ferguson with the Hoover Institute.
I think that's most likely, given that the Iranian position hasn't changed. They not only are continuing to enrich, they want to keep enriching, but they also intend to continue with the missile program as well as with the proxies that they have funded throughout the region to carry out their terrorist campaigns. The American negotiators, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, as well as Secretary of State Marco Rubio, have made clear that President Trump's red lines include the end of enrichment as well as the end of the missile program and the proxy funding. The Iranians are not going to give ground on those issues.
In other words, we're using this time to get more things in place and ready, as are the Iranians, but they don't have that much to prepare for and not much they can do. And again, Secretary of State Rubio talking about the very threat we will face if we don't put a stop to it now.
Ultimately, all radical Islamic movements in the world identify the West writ large, but the United States in particular, as the greatest evil on the earth. And every chance to have the notion that somehow radical Islam would be comfortable with simply controlling some province in Iraq or Syria is just not borne out by history. Radical Islam has shown that their desire is not simply to occupy one part of the world and be happy with their own little caliphate. They want to expand. It's revolutionary in its nature. It seeks to expand and control more territories and more people. And radical Islam has designs openly on the West. On the United States, on Europe, we've seen that progress there as well. And they are prepared to conduct acts of terrorism. In the case of Iran, nation-state actions, assassinations, murders, you name it, whatever it takes for them to gain their influence and ultimately their domination of different cultures and societies.
So our State Department has made it very clear to the embassy staff we have in Israel and in Lebanon and other targets that could be hit by Iran, by ballistic missiles. We're going to move you and your families out unless you're essential personnel. We're clearing the offices. When they start doing that, you have to know things are going to start raining down at any point. There will be, unfortunately, innocent casualties on both sides. But of course, the Iranians don't look at either innocent casualties, be it Israeli citizens, not military, be it their own citizens, because they don't mind the body count making it look how bad we are. Will we get through this weekend without war breaking out? Come Sunday in your church, if we haven't had it happen, I think, again, you need to enter more prayers. And in the meantime, we do have enemies inside our government, the deep state. And the deep state is not just against Trump, but is against our nation. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Noem previously offered an example.
I just found the other day a whole room on this campus that was a secret SCIF, secure facility, that had files nobody knew existed. So we just happened to have an employee walk by a door and wonder what it was and started asking questions. We went in there. There was individuals working there that had secret files that nobody knew about on some of these most controversial topics like that. And now I've got that turned over to attorneys, and we're getting to the bottom of what exactly happened there. You know, we have CBP, which is Customs and Border Protection. They know every traveler that comes into this country, every good that comes in. They're the ones who assess and collect all of the tariffs. But the information that they had on travelers that came in during COVID, what our national labs, which I also have national labs under my jurisdiction, they're scientists that participated with that Wuhan lab, how they were traveling back and forth between each other and working on those experiments. It's been eye-opening.
Eye-opening. I mean, seriously. I mean, stop and think about what they were doing. They knew where Chinese were being involved in Wuhan. They were aware of it. And they were not really sharing with our government, apparently. So when I say that they are not just deep state against Trump, Republicans, MAGA, many of them are useful tools or idiots or paid tools for the Chinese and the Russians. And They even got around to spying directly on Kristi Noem.
It was, Elon and his team were extremely helpful to me. They helped me identify that some of my own employees in my department had downloaded software on my phone and my laptop to spy on me.
Stop it.
To record our meetings.
Wow.
They had done that to several of the politicals.
Wow.
And so we ended up bringing in people, and that was something that if you didn't have those technology experts here in the department looking at all of our laptops and our phones and recognizing that kind of software, it would still be happening today. So one of the things I need to do and continue to do is partner with technology companies and experts to bring them in and help us. Because many times in government, and especially in this department, which was extremely neglected, we were just behind and not up to the standard we should be at.
So she knows they need to reinforce. That was part of an interview she was giving to a group called the BBT podcast, I believe. The White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles' attorney, in 2023, supposedly, the argument is that he agreed to let the Biden-era FBI record a call with his client, Susie Wiles, with her knowledge. Her attorney says, if I ever pulled a stunt like that, and I shouldn't, I wouldn't have a license to practice law. I'm as shocked as Susie. Yes, they were even tapping into Susie Wiles' phone with the Biden FBI permission. Again, Kristi Noem on just how deep the deep state is.
The backwards thinking of protecting our country was extremely detrimental to keeping us safe. And many times the deep state, I think what I tell people most of the time is I always believed when people talked about the deep state before that it existed. I never would have dreamed that it was as bad as it is. It is. I'm still every day trying to dig out people who don't love America, that not just work at this department, but also work throughout the federal government.
And again, this key, I can't stress enough, is not just going after Trump, MAGA, Republicans, conservatives, but against our nation. And Democrats are too foolish to recognize that. I think some do, but they are quiet. Coming up, men are being castrated by the leftists. I mean, literally and figuratively. And the time when our vice president resigned after bribery charges. Lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
You should know that when I endorse Wellington Environmental, it's because I believe and know they will do you right. Wellington takes pride in providing homeowners and businesses whatever they need. You need some dustless blasting? They will take care of that. You need some mold remediation? They can do that. They take pride in training their team to perform multiple services and having the equipment ready to get jobs finished. That's important to you. You make just one call, and you call a company that's been around for more than 35 years with more than 45 technicians in the field. Most of you know finding good workers, then having them show up on time could be difficult. Not for Wellington Environmental. They're there at the designated time, ready to go. Check them out to see what they could do for you. Dustless blasting or anything else you need. Wellington Environmental, 314-644-4930. 314-644-4930. Be well with Wellington. The best thing I ever did for my neck and back pain was go to Esquire Sports Medicine. Dr. Draghi and his staff can take care of those pains. If they can't, they'll refer you to a specialist. And when you're hurting, you don't want to wait. So often with Dr. Draghi and Esquire Sports Medicine, you're treated within 24 hours. For any joint or muscle pain, contact my doctor, Dr. Draghi, Esquire Sports Medicine on Big Bend, just north of 40. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. Another day must be another roofer in town. John Beal and I were talking. He said, every time you turn around, there's a new roofing company. Many of them have no idea what they're doing, and the statistics show that many will be out of business within 2 to 5 years. Who are you going to call to help you then? You need to remember only one name, John Beal. John Beal Roofing. You have a problem, he can take care of it. And we'll be here for you. John Beal Roofing. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. Renewal by Anderson asking, are you still battling cold drafts? Windows icing up again? Utility costs surging? You're worried about paying more every month? The truth is, you may already be paying for new windows and money lost to energy escaping your home. And here's the thing, you don't want to do this project twice. Renewal by Anderson spends every day replacing bad technology, poor installation of windows and doors that simply don't stand the test of time. But you can afford the best. America's most trusted window replacement company, Anderson. Call 877-WINDOWS or visit rbastl.com. Learn about our December savings event right now. 877-WINDOWS, rbastl.com. Renewal by Anderson. Superior products, exceptional service.
This is News Talk STL.
Drinking dog whiskey, telling white lies. One leads to another on Saturday night. Don't you cross your heart unless you hope to die. Drinking dog whiskey, telling white lies.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Many are of the belief that we have a crisis in men's health. In the U.S., American men are dying 5 years sooner than women. Suicide rates of men 4 times higher. In Britain, Prince William pointed out the soaring male suicide rates in the U.K. as a national catastrophe. What is going on? How much of this to be laid at the feet of the leftists as they're trying to destroy men in other ways? Joining us now, Ed Bartlett, founder of SAVE, an organization focused on fairness and due process. Ed, I hear you in the background. Welcome aboard.
Hey, Larry, good to hear from you. Good to chat with you.
So I want to point out to everyone, SAVE is Stop Abusive and Violent Environments. This is a nonprofit organization trying to ensure due process, fairness, and equal opportunities for men. Now, based on what I was just saying before you came on board, a crisis in men's health, suicide rates up, and I want to know how much of things facing men now can be laid at the feet of leftists trying to demasculinize, castrate men, basically.
Well, Larry, I think you framed the issue beautifully, and the men have undergone a series of attacks on their sense of maleness, on their sense of masculinity. It goes all the way back to the 1960s. Do you remember the first time you heard the word patriarchy and you wondered what the hell were they talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So it does go back to the 1960s. Patriarchy was sort of the overall sweeping word to say men as a whole, as a group, all they care about is oppressing women. And the evidence to make that claim was that, the majority of CEOs, the majority of presidents, the majority of lawmakers were male. What that analysis failed to recognize is men are very driven by chivalry. Chivalry means that they are taking actions to protect men, to protect women, benefit women, support women, et cetera, et cetera. I can give you many, many examples of male lawmakers passing laws designed explicitly to help women. So the whole concept of patriarchy is a fallacy.
Well, I'm very big on chivalry. Believe me, I insist on opening a door for a woman, and they may often say, I can do it. I said, I'm not saying you can't do it, but a woman, if there's a man with her, a woman should never have to touch a door. Now, talking about some of the legislation, last week, H.R. 7602 was introduced in the House, called the State of Men's Health, calling for a detailed analysis of the leading causes of male mortality.
Well, yes, and I think it's fair to say, Larry, that we are seeing a wave of support for men's health across the nation. And that bill that was introduced in the House of Representatives is just one example. I live in the state of Maryland. We have a bill that was just introduced on men's health just a few weeks ago. California, Virginia, Washington State, they all have new programs to help men's health. In November, the American Medical Association approved a new resolution urging states to establish offices of men's health. And the list goes on and on.
And this, now may I interrupt? And none of this is at the cost of care and health for women.
Well, that's exactly right. But even more than that, this will benefit women. And I'll give you a specific example, is that if an elderly woman's husband dies, her chance of being sent to a nursing home increases 3 to 6 times. Okay, and that's just a common sense fact that, in fact, has been supported by research. So this is not an either-or game. Feminists love to, present these issues as either-or, but no, these are and both. Helping men to live longer lives will help women as well.
All right, let's talk about one particular thing. A prostate cancer, most men are basically told if you're going to get it, if you live long enough, you're probably going to have prostate cancer. And we find it early enough and we can treat it and you'll be fine. But over the years, 14% of the National Institutes of Health research budget dealing with health for men and women, 14% was allocated for women's health, 6% for men's health. What's the disparity issue?
Yeah, well, when feminists love to make the claim that women were shortchanged by medical research, which is an absolute lie. And I'm just going to say that word bluntly. It's just absolutely not true. And I know because I've really researched the issue. Women have always been included in NIH research, and even larger numbers of women overall than men. So, it's just an example of the dishonesty that we hear.
Well, the other issue is they're talking men, young boys, grooming them to cut off perfectly good parts of their body so they can, quote, become a woman. And then they're actually turning around and going to young women and saying, well, chop off your breast so you can become a man. And none of that is going to prove effective. And we already have watched the repercussions of folks on puberty blockers and or transsexual surgery manifest itself in several killings. But the left ignores the risk that's being taken with men and women and boys and girls.
Well, that's a perfect example of how these myths spread and spread. So just as you said, the myth that you can change your sex or your gender at will, that is harmful to boys and it's harmful to girls. You may recall during the State of the Union address a few days ago, President Trump highlighted a girl from Virginia, and she got caught up in this transgender cult.
Right.
And she ended up, running away from home. I won't go into the details because they're pretty gory and sad. But the point is, transgenderism has been a huge disservice both to men and to women.
So the American Medical Association last November approved a resolution urging states to establish more offices to treat men's health. And yet the AMA has yet to come out and condemn transgender transformations.
Yeah, I'll admit I don't know all the details or the political intrigue at the AMA, but yeah, it does kind of seem like a contradiction on the surface of things.
I'll clarify it. It is a contradiction. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. You may have heard in Maryland there is a big lawsuit against the Montgomery County Public Schools, which is the biggest school system in Maryland, and the MCPS had to pay out, I believe it was $1.5 million to parents because parents had been deprived of the ability to withhold their own children from attending classes that promoted the transgender ideology. So I think it's fair to say the transgender cult is in retreat right now. They're still fighting, but it is in retreat.
And yet they try to mask what they're doing. Perfect example, California Governor Newsom issued an executive order to address high suicide rates among men and boys. That sounds good. But at the same time, he's also pushing transgender transformations.
I know. Well, obviously, when you get into politics, it's you're always trying to cater to different constituencies, and the result is sometimes it's a logical mess. But and that's a great example. So, but again, I think it's fair to say the transgender movement is in retreat in the United States and around the world, but we need to keep fighting that good fight.
I do agree that we also have a Dads Matter Act that's been introduced in both the Senate and the House that would encourage fathers of newborns and fathers-to-be to be actively involved in promoting the welfare of the mother and the child, regardless if the child is boy or girl. I think that's good. We need dads involved, period.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another example where the feminist left has tried to marginalize fathers as being at best irrelevant and at worst harmful to their children. And again, it's an absolute lie to say or imply that fathers are not, vitally important for their own children's health. You may have seen the New York Times just had an article last week showing that the presence of fathers was more important to the health of their children than the presence of mothers. So that was a pretty shocking finding.
Yeah, it is. Ed Bartlett, founder of SAVE, an organization focused on fairness and due process on college campuses and dedicated to fair and equal opportunities for men. Ed, as always, thank you for your time, sir.
Great to chat with you. Be in touch.
You bet. God bless. Have a great weekend. Coming up, during the history of our nation, we've had 2 vice presidents resign. Can you name them? And do you know why? Story behind the story.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
2026, a great time to visit Lit Cigar Lounge. The Lit Cigar Facebook has numerous events from tastings to music. My main reason for going to Lit is always quality cigars, premium whiskeys. Odds are we'll see each other at Lit Cigar Lounge. A few doors down, Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta. Get a pizza baked over coals. Excellent crust and flavor. Or choose one of the many great pasta dishes. You won't leave hungry. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta and Lit Cigar Lounge in the Chesterfield Valley. Renewal by Anderson asking, are you still battling cold drafts? Windows icing up again? Utility costs surging? You're worried about paying more every month? The truth is, you may already be paying for new windows and money lost to energy escaping your home. And here's the thing, you don't want to do this project twice. Renewal by Anderson spends every day replacing bad technology, poor installation of windows and doors that simply don't stand the test of time. But you can afford the best. America's most trusted window replacement company, Anderson. Call 877-WINDOWS or visit rbastl.com. Learn about our December savings event right now. 877-WINDOWS, rbastl.com. Renewal by Anderson. Superior products, exceptional service. ever been in a wreck or felt as if you've been in a wreck? My advice, contact Dr. Bill Draghi, Esquire Sports Medicine. Yes, they can treat wreck victims, falls, other hazards of life, sports injuries. I go at least twice a month. That keeps the joints in line. Part of your spine get out of line, you start compensating, you're going to have additional pain. Don't be that guy. Visit Esquire Sports Medicine, Big Bend, just north of 40, EsquireSportsMedicine.com.
This is News Talk STL.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Now, Larry Connors with the story behind the story.
You will repeat after me. I, Spiro Theodore Agnew.
I, Spiro Theodore Agnew.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend.
That I will support and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
Against all enemies.
Against all enemies.
Foreign and domestic.
Foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation.
Without any mental reservations.
Or purpose of evasion.
Or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
The duties of the office.
The duties of the office.
On which I am about to enter.
On which I am about to enter.
So help you God.
So help me God.
That was Spiro Agnew taking the oath of office as the vice president under Richard Nixon. And he would end up resigning as vice president as several charges, felony charges, came against him. Not committed while he was vice president, but committed in his prior political life. I'm going to break it down for you. I told you there have been two vice presidents who have resigned. The first was John C. Calhoun. He resigned, stepping down in 1832 during his second term. Shortly before it ended. It was not a political, or I should say criminal or civil charges against him that brought it. It was his disagreement with the president at the time, Andrew Jackson, regarding nullification and states' rights. So he decided to step down and resign. Calhoun had served under two different presidents, John Quincy Adams, in addition to Jackson. But again, the conflict with Jackson was over tariffs. You've heard that word lately, have you not? And federal power. That was known as the nullification crisis that he felt made his position untenable. Immediately replaced by Martin Van Buren for Jackson's second term. Political issue. Spiro Agnew, a criminal issue. Member of the Republican Party, obviously. Served as the third executive of Baltimore County from 1962 to 66. He was the 55th governor of Maryland from 67 to 69. Agnew was born in Baltimore and later ended up, at the time he was getting married, he'd been drafted into the U.S. Army, shortly after the Pearl Harbor attack, December 1941. He started basic training in South Carolina. Eventually ended up in OCS, Officer Candidate School, Fort Knox, Kentucky. And then on May 24th, 1942, 3 days before his wedding, he became a second lieutenant. Got a quick 2-day honeymoon and then off to the front for the build-up of D-Day. He actually remained on standby in Birmingham before he headed off to England. And then he came into the orbit of Richard Nixon because he had suddenly recognized that he was political material. He was campaigning vigorously for Republicans, did get one position, appointment, but he was still after more. And when Nixon was in running, he was besieged by who could you pull up as a vice president. Agnew came to the forefront. Not that there were not others to be considered, but Agnew was at the top of the list. And until the April 1968 disturbances we had across the nation, racial disturbances, his image was that he was a liberal Republican. Because in '64 he supported the presidential ambitions of Governor Nelson Rockefeller of New York. In fact, he was chairman of Rockefeller for President Citizens Committee. Then in a televised speech, March 1968, Rockefeller shocked his supporters with an apparently unequivocal withdrawal from the race. Agnew was dismayed, humiliated. He had gotten no advance warning. He took it as a personal insult. And within days of that, here came supporters of former Vice President Richard Nixon to get him to stand with Nixon and run against the Democrat ticket. Nixon went into the '68 Republican National Convention in Miami, considering several, including Ronald Reagan, and even John Lindsay, the more liberal mayor of New York City. Nixon felt those high-profile names would split the party, or I would say he felt that they might draw attention away from him. He actually didn't indicate a preferred choice at that time. But Agnew went to the convention with his Maryland delegation as a favorite son. And at the convention, Agnew abandoned his favorite son status, and he placed Nixon's name in nomination. So Nixon narrowly secured the nomination on the first ballot. Then what to do about a vice president, someone to run with him? He turned to Agnew, he thought could appeal to Rockefeller Republicans and may be acceptable to Southern conservatives. Law and order. Law and order was an issue Agnew had been failing on. He ended up being charged with various crimes that included using his position as governor, as an exec within Baltimore, to make deals and take kickbacks and money. Agnew insisted, I'm innocent. And he held a news conference when he called the stories damned lies. Nixon was beginning to lose confidence in him. And with Watergate was beginning to spin up, Nixon had to worry about that as well. And with the increasing pressure for him to resign, Agnew had the position a sitting vice president could not be indicted. He met with Speaker of the House Carl Albert. And they basically decided, nah, you may not be necessarily indicted, but you are facing these charges, and it might well not work for the party in a whole. And, of course, Agnew had to worry about his own skin. So then Spiro Agnew made a statement to the public.
While I'm fully aware that the plea of nolo contendere was the equivalent of a plea of guilty for the purpose of that negotiated proceeding in Baltimore, it does not represent a confession of any guilt whatever for any other purpose. I made the plea because it was the only way to quickly resolve the situation. In this technological age, image becomes dominant. Appearance supersedes reality. An appearance of wrongdoing, whether true or false, in fact, is damaging to any man. But more important, it is fatal to a man who must be ready at any moment to step into the presidency. The American people deserve to have a vice president who commands their unimpaired confidence and implicit trust. For more than 2 months now, you have not had such a vice president.
He acknowledged the damage it was causing to the nation and, of course, himself. He made his decision on October 5th. October 9, he visited Nixon at the White House, informed him that I'm going to resign and enter a plea. And yes, there is more to the story, behind the story.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
Do you know why I endorse Cafe Napoli, all the locations? Visit any of them, and you will quickly appreciate the quality of food, service, atmosphere. So maybe I'll see you at Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli Kirkwood, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C. Or maybe you'll find me at Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the Chesterfield Valley. Now you know why I endorse Napoli, NapoliSTL.com.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Now, the end of the story behind the story.
Had I remained in office and fought to vindicate myself through the courts and the Congress, it would have meant subjecting the country to a further agonizing period of months without an unclouded successor for the presidency. This I could not do, despite my tormented verbal assertion in Los Angeles. To put his country through the ordeal of division and uncertainty that entailed would be a selfish and unpatriotic action for any man in the best of times. But at this especially critical time, with a dangerous war raging in the Mideast, and with the nation still torn by the wrenching experiences of the past year, it would have been intolerable. So I chose instead not to contest formally the accusations against me.
Spiro Agnew, and we referred to the war in the Middle East, he's talking about Vietnam. And he pled nolo contendere. I'm not pleading guilty, but it basically is a statement that there's enough evidence against me, I'll probably be found guilty. And decided for the betterment of the nation, I will enter that plea. So on October 10, 1973, he did appear before a federal court in Baltimore, pleading nolo contendere, no contest to one felony charge, tax evasion, for the year 1967. And it had been agreed with the prosecutors there would be no further prosecution. And a 40-page summary of the evidence against him was made public. Well, what happened to Agnew? He was fined. How much, you ask? $10,000. $10,000. Placed on 3 years unsupervised probation. And immediately prior to entering the court, he had an aide submit his formal letter of resignation to the Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger. And he sent a letter to Nixon stating, I am resigning in the best interest of our nation. Nixon, in turn, responded with a letter concurring the resignation was necessary to avoid a lengthy period of division and uncertainty, and applauding Agnew for patriotism and dedication to the welfare of the U.S. And it was shortly after that, suddenly Watergate was breaking and taking over the headlines. Some of the stuff Agnew had failed to deal with on these attempted briberies involved, in one part, slot machine industry, getting anywhere from $20,000 in one payment to $75,000 in another, $200,000 in another. He had promised not to veto legislation keeping the machines legal in southern Maryland. And he justified again his silence on the grounds that no actual offer was ever made. As he said, quote, "Nobody sat down in front of me with a suitcase full of money." I believe that. I doubt anybody walked into his office and opened up a suitcase full of money. But obviously others said you still not only walked the line, you crossed the line. He did his best to stay away from it. And the best he had done was get into the orb of Richard Nixon. But it also became evident that that was a world that was collapsing. So Agnew got out, and Gerald Ford came in. Agnew passed away September 17, 1996. Our nation's second vice president to resign from that office. Monday, another story behind the story. It's a regular feature of our 6 o'clock hour. Second hour is still to come, and I remind you of our pledge, one nation under God.
You can hear podcasts of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. Ever been in a wreck or felt as if you've been in a wreck? My advice, contact Dr. Bill Draghi, Esquire Sports Medicine. Yes, they can treat wreck victims, falls, other hazards of life, sports injuries. I go at least twice a month. That keeps the joints in line. Part of your spine get out of line, you start compensating, you're going to have additional pain. Don't be that guy. Visit Esquire Sports Medicine, Big Bend, just north of 40. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. There's only one place you can get pizza cooked over coals. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield Valley. Of course, Napoli Brothers has a great selection of pasta dishes. Between the pizza and pasta, trust me, you will not leave hungry. Then, a few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, a wide variety of quality cigars, each offering a unique smoke. That cigar, some premium whiskey, all you need to do is enjoy. Lit Cigar Lounge and Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, Chesterfield Valley. It's that time of season when families, businesses are moving. For local or long distance, I endorse McGuire Moving. Get a date set soon before the schedules are booked. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. McGuire is constantly giving back to our veterans, such as support dogs for our brave. So with McGuire, you're getting excellent service and helping our vets. McGuireMoving.com. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check Vincent'sJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. Vincent'sJewelers.com. Vincent'sJewelers.com. by Anderson asking, are you still battling cold drafts, windows icing up again, utility costs surging, and you're worried about paying more every month? The truth is, you may already be paying for new windows and money lost to energy escaping your home. And here's the thing, you don't want to do this project twice. Renewal by Anderson spends every day replacing bad technology, poor installation of windows and doors that simply don't stand the test of time. But you can afford the best, America's most trusted window replacement company, Anderson. Call 877-WINDOWS or visit rbastl.com. Learn about our December savings event right now. 877-WINDOWS, rbastl.com. Renewal by Anderson. Superior products, exceptional service.
This is News Talk STL.
Answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
We had a bit of a challenge in the beginning because we had agreed upon rules based on the fact it was going to be a closed hearing at their demand, and one of the members violated that rule, which was very upsetting because it suggested that they might violate other of our agreements. So we had to cease the hearing for a period of time until we could get assurances that no rules would be broken going forward, and we returned to answer questions repetitively, literally over and over again. I don't know how many times I had to say I did not know Jeffrey Epstein. I never went to his island. I never went to his homes. I never went to his offices. So it's on the record numerous times.
And I want to know, did she feel jealous because she never got invited? Just asking for a friend. Hillary, were you jealous that you didn't have a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein? That's Hillary Clinton talking about the closed-door deposition she gave yesterday. Today, her husband, former President Bill Clinton, became the first president to sit in front of a congressional committee. But it was, again, a closed-door session. Now, Hillary at one point said, we should have made this public. I wanted it public. She can cry that all day long. I wanted it public. But she and Bill originally refused to accept subpoenas to appear and testify before James Comer's committee. See, they try to play this. It's a slick road, and that's kind of where Slick Willie got his name. Anyway, he's all over the place. And Hillary has learned how to play that game. And what got me is she said, we had rules set up. They're supposed to follow rules, and they violated a rule. Now, I don't know what rule they had. I don't know if it's justified to even put it in place, but apparently it was, according to her, agreed to by both Democrats and Republicans before she gave her deposition. And either somebody asked a question or brought something up that they said, no, that's against the rules. You're trying to get to the truth. What rules did you have in place? I'd like to know. I would really like to know. And, of course, Bill Clinton having his deposition, he has since come out and talked about it. And I'll tell you more about that as we move forward. Welcome to hour number 2, Larry Connors USA. We are here for you every Monday through Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. And when we're on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch the program. Very easy to do so. Go to NewsTalkSTL Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, LarryConnorsUSA.com, or Larry Connors USA Facebook. And I know we appear in numerous other locations because I've had folks comment to me. That's fine. Find us wherever you want to find us. And the same thing for our podcasts that go up later. They're also available beyond what we offer for you through NewsTalkSTL, LarryConnorsUSA.com, Larry Connors USA Facebook. I do ask if you're listening or watching at a later time, push the share button. Send what we're putting out to others, family, friends, even your enemies. I don't care. We got to put print all across our nation and even into parts of Europe. We are banned in North Korea. I will point that out to you. I get from time to time a notice, you are banned in North Korea. That really breaks my heart. One day, they will learn of Larry Connors USA in North Korea. That'll be a bright day, I would say. I do take a moment to remind you, the St. Charles County Republican Central Committee has a big night planned for you. Friday, March 20, the Old Hickory Golf Club in St. Peters. You're going to have a chance to mingle with a lot of other like minds. Reception, VIP reception starts at 5:30. Dinner and program at 6:30. You want tickets? Well, I'll tell you how you do that. You go to stcharlesgop.com, get more information, or you can go to NewsTalkSTL and get more information. You don't want to wait. I don't know how much space they have. I've been out there for some different events at the Old Hickory Golf Club, but they can fill up pretty quick. So if you want a ticket, you need to get in early. It is March 20. That's a Friday. Do not let it slip up on you. And, of course, with Larry Connors USA, every time we're on the air, we're offering news, analysis, commentary, and education. And one thing about education, let me remind you again, your cell phone is your radio. I don't care where you are, you can be listening to us. Get the free NewsTalk STL app. Put it on your phone. It is very easy to download, and it costs you nothing. Nothing. You download that app, and then when you open it up, whatever program we have on the air at that point, that's the one you'll be listening to. But there are also ways to pull up podcasts and get additional information. And here's what I do in my car. You could do the same. I open it up while I'm driving, and I play it through the Bluetooth. So the speaker's in the car. I don't need to have an earbud in my ear. I don't need anything. It's just like normal radio sound coming through my speakers, but it's through the NewsTalk STL app. Try it. You'll like it, I promise you. All right, let's go back to Bill Clinton did his deposition today. And here is some of the information that he stated once he came out. I never had sex with it. No, I take it back. I got lost. Twilight Zone. That was another incident. In this one, he did come out and say, I did nothing wrong. And I had no idea the crimes Epstein was committing. In fact, I'm going to read here what is apparently a quote, and I don't know that this was actually, it was part of his opening statement that he did post on social media. May I read? Thank you. I appreciate it. Though my brief acquaintance with Epstein ended years before his crimes came to light, and though I never witnessed during our interactions any indication of what was truly going on, do you think I'm being overdramatic in my read? Do you think he read it that way? Well, the hell with it. I'm going to do it my way anyway. And he said, and I thought, and though I never witnessed during our interactions any indication of what was going on, I'm here to offer what little I know so that it might prevent anything like this from ever happening again. Like having sexual relations with an intern in the White House. Nope, sorry. I guess I added that to his social statement. He didn't say that. But what he did say, I had no idea the crimes Epstein was committing. I saw nothing that ever gave me pause. I saw nothing, and I did nothing wrong. Oh, God. Slick Willie still at it. But that's what we have heard from him regarding his deposition. We are going to see at some point, I would hope, a full public deposition or hearing dealing with what they testified to. Now, keep in mind, maybe Hillary needed to be reminded of that. Whatever you say in a congressional hearing, you say under oath. And if anything can be proven that you lied, you can face perjury charges. I'd say the same to Bill, but I think he's more than aware of it. He knows the line he can walk. Keep in mind, we just had the Department of Justice release another 3 million pages of documents. It's a lot to go through. It's a very detailed piece of information. At the core of the controversy, there are documents outlining 3 of 4 FBI interviews, apparently related to a woman who accused Donald Trump, as well as Epstein, of sexually assaulting her decades ago. Now, that seems to be missing from the latest papers released. And the woman apparently made the claims in 2019, dating back to the 1980s when she was a minor, according to the Justice Department. Her allegation against Trump is uncorroborated. And, of course, Trump has denied all wrongdoing and said he broke his relationship with Epstein 20 years ago. The Guardian late yesterday published a story in which its reporter said it had obtained the missing documents, and this is again according to the Guardian, the woman's claims, quote, at times appear outlandish. In other words, maybe all made up. But Nancy Pelosi wants you to know that of all the presidents she's worked with, Trump is the one you should fear the most. Just listen to her in this interview.
I've been in politics a long time, as you know, and we've had Democratic presidents, Republican presidents. They've all been patriots until now. We have to win this race.
The stakes, she says, could not be higher.
Our democracy is at stake. What is a democracy? A democracy is free and fair elections, an independent judiciary, freedom of the press, due process, rule of law, all of that diminished under this president and the Republicans in Congress.
Is President Trump's second term what you expected it to be?
Is his second term what I expected it to be? It's worse than anything. It's not just about his second term and what that is. It's about the Congress of the United States abolishing itself and just yielding to him on every score.
I had to tell you, I would have loved to have been there in that interview room at that point. First, when she said, I've been in politics a long time. I said, yeah, you were there when they invented the wheel. Were you not? And aside from that, I would say, well, so that's what you think of President Trump's second term. What do you think about his third term? Make the woman go ballistic. In the meantime, Democrats continue to battle against anything to protect Americans, such as illegals. Like in the other night in the President's State of the Union address, he said, stand with me if you believe Americans deserve more protection than illegals, that America should protect American citizens. Democrats sat on their butt, and they still refuse to accept the fact that Joe Biden is to blame for all of this.
Well, Donald Trump and congressional Republicans would rather shut down TSA, shut down the Coast Guard, shut down FEMA, instead of making accountability measures that the American people are demanding to an out-of-control ICE agency. And so we have got to hold their feet to the fire. The American people have demanded accountability within the Department of Homeland Security, and we must continue to drive that message forward to create that accountability and create trust once again in our government, where this administration has failed our country.
That is New York Democrat Timothy Kennedy, blaming Trump, as Pelosi did, for everything that's failing in our country. But we, as Democrats, stand on this high moral ground, and we're trying to make things better. My friend, they're trying to sell you an stuffed sandwich. It looks good. Doubt it smells good if you ever get it near your face. And the first bite will tell you, this is stuff I didn't want. That's what they're trying to sell you. And they have a lot of minions around the nation that buy into it. An amazing number of Americans of voting age are absolutely ignorant. I'll call it out for what it is. They're ignorant. I don't mean you have to know every word and passage in the Constitution. I don't. And I know it's very hard to stay up on top of things now. I fully understand that. I do it every day, and there are a lot of things I have to walk away from. I can't get them in. So I understand it is very difficult. But there are many of them that just don't do anything except whatever their leader says. And that goes also for MAGA Republicans. Do not follow Trump blindly. Don't do that. Nor anyone else blindly. I'll repeat again, as I've said often, the only person that walked this earth that I would follow would be Jesus Christ. None of the ones I just mentioned are Jesus Christ. And yes, there are still a lot of dumb Democrats as well. And of course, they're responsible for the current shutdown. You just heard New York Democrat Kennedy say it's all the fault of Trump because they don't care about protecting the public. That's why we have TSA and everything upset. They care precisely about that. And they care about you deciding that you want to shut everything down and put the blame on them. So a question raised to Massachusetts Democrat Atchison Loss.
Should workers at DHS, like those in the TSA or FEMA, brace for weeks of this?
They shouldn't have to. They shouldn't have had to suffer a day of it because this administration is insisting upon a false choice to the American public. They're saying you can either have TSA pre-check or you can have masked agents knocking on your door without a warrant. That's no bargain that a free people should ever accept, and the American public will not accept it. Democrats don't think that guns, badges, and masks are a good mix. We don't think that officers of the law should be able to conduct dragnet operations and intrude on people's personal property without warrants. And we do think that ICE should be reprioritized towards border security and towards deporting criminals. And 2/3 of Americans agree with us, and we're not going to back down on this.
Well, a lot of what you said I would agree with, except that you're mischaracterizing a lot of it on top of that. And if there have been violations and stepping over civil liberties by DHS or ICE agents or anyone, they need to be corralled and pulled back. I fully agree with that. But you guys are taking a few incidents and making them seem to be the normal procedure when they're not. I want to get into, before we wrap up the hour, what Kristi Noem is saying about the deep state, how deep it really still is. But before that, an update on where we stand in dealing with Iran. Lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
Previously, I've told you about dustless blasting, a special service offered by Wellington Environmental. It could work for you in your place. Recently, a crew removed a driveway sealer that had failed. The owner wanted to go back to the original concrete so it could be properly sealed. Dustless blasting worked. That homeowner is happy. Now, sometimes surfaces need pressure washing instead of blasting. In fact, there was an exterior stone fireplace cleansed by pressure washing, and when it dried, all the dark stain was gone. That stone had its original appearance. Wellington is versatile with blasting. dustless blasting, or whatever you need. They will evaluate and make a decision. How do you get them to your door? Very easy. Call 314-644-4930. 644-4930. Wellington Environmental, making your world great. In fact, be safe, be well with Wellington Environmental. McGuire Moving is silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check Vincent'sJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. Vincent'sJewelers.com. Vincent'sJewelers.com. Ever been in a wreck or felt as if you've been in a wreck? My advice, contact Dr. Bill Draghi, Esquire Sports Medicine. Yes, they can treat wreck victims, falls, other hazards of life, sports injuries. I go at least twice a month. That keeps the joints in line. Part of your spine get out of line, you start compensating, you're going to have additional pain. Don't be that guy. Visit Esquire Sports Medicine, Big Bend, just north of 40. EsquireSportsMedicine.com.
This is News Talk STL.
Must be the whiskey. I've been drinking to remember and drinking to forget. I love you on my mind. I got Jim Beam on my breath and loneliness has got the rest. I've got nothing left within me. It must be the whiskey.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
The USS Gerald R. Ford leaving Greece for Middle Eastern waters, as the U.S. and Iran tried to reach a deal during a third round of nuclear talks in Switzerland. Iran's foreign ministry indicated progress had been made, saying the two sides discussed proposals over Tehran's nuclear program and sanctions.
Talks held today were very serious. We hope that we can continue the talks over the removal of sanctions and nuclear issues with practical proposals and solutions.
But so far, Iran has refused to talk about its missile program or its support for proxy groups. Last night, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said he has high hopes for diplomacy, but also emphasized the reality when it comes to the Iranian regime.
After their nuclear program was obliterated, they were told not to try to restart it. They're not enriching right now, but they're trying to get to the point where they ultimately can.
In an effort to pressure Tehran into a deal, the U.S. is continuing its military buildup in the region, with about a dozen F-22 fighter jets arriving at an Israeli air base for the first time yesterday, though Democrats are warning the Trump administration that any military action must have congressional approval.
Confronting Iran and halting its nuclear ambitions requires a strategy, clarity, transparency. But thus far, we're getting none of that from the administration.
If the U.S. strikes, Iran has said that American military bases in the region would be considered legitimate targets.
And you were hearing there Chuck Schumer from the Senate saying, we're not getting what we need from the government, transparency and everything else. What we need right now is a spine, a backbone to stand up against Iran. And if you put it, quote, to a vote and you let Democrats get into the room, they'll be wimping out. They will. I don't want to see another 9/11 at any point. I know no one else does. I don't want another Pearl Harbor, and no one else does. We're in a position right now where we've got to make sure that does not happen. And Iran and its nuclear program, and I know I've already heard from the left and even some on the right, Trump said they obliterated it. Why are we going back in again? Well, I had told you, and I admit I think he often embellishes, but maybe he meant it in a sense that They can't do anything with it right now, and it's pushed their timetable back. Now, if I obliterate someone, they would be dead, and they're not going to be risen again until the day of judgment. But you obliterate anything someone's working on, they'll just start again. Doesn't mean you didn't wipe it out or hurt it and damage it severely, but they're still capable of going back in and retooling, and that's what they've been doing. And you heard the layout from Trey Yangst of what is waiting around Iran right now with all of our naval armada. And again, I want to remind you, and I love doing this, I love taking pride in this, that right here in the state of Missouri, Whiteman Air Force Base, we've got bombers that can fly that 6,000 miles to Tehran and drop anything they want, anywhere they want. And they are supported, obviously, by men and women at Whiteman Air Force Base to see they can carry out that mission. We've done it previously, Afghanistan, Libya. We can do it again, and we will, if need be. So when you look at a map and it shows you where all our naval armada is, and now the Gerald Ford is entering the Mediterranean, approaching closer to Israel, don't think that that's all we got. Even when you see the planes at different bases around the Middle East we still have a lot more. And word coming out today, the U.S. has positioned its first dedicated one-way kamikaze drone. That's because these talks the other day wrapped up again, no surprise here, without a deal. These one-way drones are not going to be obviously manned, but this is going to be called Task Force Scorpion. It's ready at this time. Participating in strikes would come with a presidential order. U.S. Central Command spokesman was allowed to speak about it. These drones, low-cost unmanned combat attack system drones, known as Lucas, cost approximately $35,000 per platform. We already test launch one in the Arabian Gulf back in December. We don't have to worry about sending it there, deploying weapons, bringing it back. We just send it crashing in. We don't care if it comes back. We don't expect it to come back. There are low-level talks scheduled next week. We may not get to next week. But Secretary Rubio says we have a lot still at stake.
I want you to understand, and everyone should know, that Iran poses a very grave threat to the United States and has for a very long time. They are in possession, first and foremost, after their nuclear program was obliterated, they were told not to try to restart it, and here they are. You can see them always trying to rebuild elements of it. They're not enriching right now, but they're trying to get to the point where they ultimately can. The other thing I would point you to, however, is that Iran possesses a very large number of ballistic missiles, particularly short-range ballistic missiles that threaten the United States and our bases in the region and our partners in the region, and all of our bases in the UAE, in Qatar, in Bahrain, and they also possess naval assets that threaten shipping and try to threaten the U.S. Navy. So I want everyone to understand that, and beyond just the nuclear program, they possess these conventional weapons that are solely designed to attack America and attack Americans if they so choose to do so.
And they will. They'll hit targets in the region that they can reach with those ballistic missiles. We know they've been moving them around to get them ready. And Arkansas Senator Cotton says, listen to what Rubio is telling you.
Remember, they believe for 47 years that they can't win a war, but they can win any negotiation. I think with Donald Trump, they're likely to lose both. As you said, they're refusing to stop enriching uranium. That was a central demand of the president going back 10 years. And as Marco Rubio very critically pointed out, this is not just about their nuclear program. They have thousands of ballistic missiles that threaten our bases in the Middle East, in Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. Some of them can even range our bases in Europe. And they want to build missiles, as the President and Marco have said, to reach the United States. They have a space launch program, Sean. When was the last time you heard of Iran putting an astronaut into space? The reason they have that space launch program is it's the exact same technology that would be used to build intercontinental missiles to hit us here in the United States. We cannot allow Iran to continue to build this massive missile arsenal to threaten our people, our homeland, our troops, and our friends.
That's Senator Tom Cotton on Sean Hannity last night. Yeah, Iran says, we just want to bring ourselves out of the rock age. That's why we need nuclear energy. And then we want to go into space. We want a space program. They want missiles they would get into space so they could drop right back into the USA. Niall Ferguson is with the Hoover Foundation. He said a lot of the stalling you see taking place and the delay is not Trump backing up and retreating from a red line. There's a purpose.
I think that's most likely, given that the Iranian position hasn't changed. They not only are continuing to enrich, they want to keep enriching, but they also intend to continue with the missile program as well as with the proxies that they have funded throughout the region to carry out their terrorist campaigns. The American negotiators, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, as well as Secretary of State Marco Rubio, have made clear that President Trump's red lines include the end of enrichment as well as the end of the missile program and the proxy funding. The Iranians are not going to give ground on those issues.
No. We know exactly what they're going to do and what they will try to do. So a little time being bought is actually giving us a chance to make sure we're ready with everything. Once again, Secretary of State Rubio.
Ultimately, all radical Islamic movements in the world identify the West writ large, but the United States in particular, as the greatest evil on the earth. And every chance to have the notion that somehow radical Islam would be comfortable with simply controlling some province in Iraq or Syria is just not borne out by history. Radical Islam has shown that their desire is not simply to occupy one part of the world and be happy with their own little caliphate. They want to expand. It's revolutionary in its nature. It seeks to expand and control more territories and more people. And radical Islam has designs openly on the West. On the United States, on Europe, we've seen that progress there as well. And they are prepared to conduct acts of terrorism. In the case of Iran, nation-state actions, assassinations, murders, you name it, whatever it takes for them to gain their influence and ultimately their domination of different cultures and societies.
Yeah, they have plans well beyond what they want you to see. They want you to believe everything they say. They want you to believe they only want peace. They only want nuclear capability to bring their country out of the Stone Age, when they really want it to build nuclear devices and weapons to bomb you into the Stone Age. And then they want to go to space, only so they could drop missiles down on the USA. You don't want to buy that story, do you? I don't know anyone who would. ABC has to make a big admission. Stand by, please.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
When I have business clients or guests from out of town, I often take them to Cafe Napoli. I know they're going to enjoy any of the Napoli locations. Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, and Napoli 3 in St. Charles, next to Napoli C, Napoli Kirkwood, or Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the Chesterfield Valley. Excellent food and intellectual conversation, if they bring the intellectual conversation. And NapoliSTL.com. NapoliSTL.com. Renewal by Anderson asking, are you still battling cold drafts? Windows icing up again? Utility costs surging? You're worried about paying more every month? The truth is, you may already be paying for new windows and money lost to energy escaping your home. And here's the thing. You don't want to do this project twice. Renewal by Anderson spends every day replacing bad technology, poor installation of windows and doors that simply don't stand the test of time. But you can afford the best. America's most trusted window replacement company, Anderson. Call 877-WINDOWS or visit rbastl.com. Learn about our December savings event right now. 877-WINDOWS, rbastl.com. Renewal by Anderson. Superior products, exceptional service. 2026, a great time to visit Lit Cigar Lounge. The Lit Cigar Facebook has numerous events from tastings to music. My main reason for going to Lit is always quality cigars, premium whiskeys. Odds are we'll see each other at Lit Cigar Lounge. A few doors down, Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta. Get a pizza baked over coals. Excellent crust and flavor. Or choose one of the many great pasta dishes. You won't leave hungry. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta and Lit Cigar Lounge in the Chesterfield Valley.
This is News Talk STL.
I guess I grew up on an older road, a pedal to the metal, always did what I told. Until I found out that my brand new clothes came secondhand from the rich kids next door. And I grew up fast, I guess I grew up mean. There's 1,000 things inside my head I wish I ain't seen. And now I just wander through a real bad dream, or feeling like I'm coming apart at the seams. But thank you, Jack Daniels, oh, number 7, Tennessee whiskey got me drinking in heaven. And
this is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
The 15% tariffs, of course, will expire at the end of July. That's about 3 months before the midterms. So what does President Trump do at the end of that period with midterms looming that have to be on his mind? He comes out and extends it. He comes out and announces more. This is not popular with the American people. In our latest poll, 2/3 of Americans are not happy with the tariffs.
Well, the president's been campaigning on tariffs and protecting American industry for many years, and he does what he says. He delivers on his promises, and so the policy hasn't changed. The legal tool to implement it, that might change, but the policy hasn't changed, and so we're aiming for continuity. There's a 15% tariff now.
And we're at a 15% tariff now. And ABC had to admit, Trump can still put these tariffs in place. The legal battles can go back and forth, but the price tag is still stuck on some of the goods coming in. And there's additional good news economically. They're not going to tell you about it. Transportation Secretary Duffy said, U.S. gas prices, are you listening? U.S. gas prices are at their lowest in 5 years. 5 years. Around $2.80 to $2.82 a gallon. That's backed up by several sources. You can find it higher, especially if you're in California. But that's where we are right now. And the lower crude oil prices will probably keep gas prices going down. And Duffy says you can credit these to the pro-energy policies of this administration. And you can see more declines coming forward. It is a position of many oil companies and so forth that this is hurting us because we're not getting what we need to continue. And there could be some pain there. And I'd like to think every American is doing better. I know maybe you're not. Maybe you're just in your mind you're not doing well, but maybe you're not using wisdom when it comes to buying what you're buying. I don't know. That's your decision. I want everybody to have a great income and doing well, especially if they're working, not stealing to get it. But if you're going to look at the low gas prices, as I said, you're going to find some areas where they're not going to be anywhere around, and we're talking about average gas, regular gas, unleaded. $2.82 a gallon, maybe $2.80 in some places. unless you go to California, their national average, I should say, their statewide average is $4.58 a gallon. Isn't it great to live in California? You want to go to Hawaii? You actually get a better gas price. Instead of $4.58 in California, the average would be $4.40. And those are still lower than what they had been. Kristi Noem was doing a podcast the other day and talking about that it's been amazing to her to find out how deep the deep state runs and recognizing it is not just a deep state against MAGA supporters and Republicans, conservatives, even independents. There are folks inside our government, working against the USA. Kristi Noem.
I just found the other day a whole room on this campus that was a secret SCIF, secure facility that had files nobody knew existed. So we just happened to have an employee walk by a door and wonder what it was and started asking questions. We went in there. There was individuals working there that had secret files that nobody knew about on some of these most controversial topics like that. And now I've got that turned over to attorneys and we're getting to the bottom of what exactly happened there. You know, we have CBP, which is Customs and Border Protection. They know every traveler that comes into this country, every good that comes in. They're the ones who assess and collect all of the tariffs. But the information that they had on travelers that came in during COVID, what our national labs, which I also have national labs under my jurisdiction, they're scientists that participated with that Wuhan lab, how they were traveling back and forth between each other and working on those experiments. It's been eye-opening.
Eye-opening to her, and she's got all this information, and what she's seeing is eye-opening. Us normal citizens, it would be a slap in the face, clearly. Shock and all, truly. If we really understood how deep this goes and how the tentacles are reaching into every little corner they can. And again, this is not just against MAGA Republicans, Trump Republicans, Republicans in general, conservatives, independents. It's everybody. I cannot stress again, this would be like we're in the midst of World War II, and we've got spies inside our military operation. And in fact, we did for a period of time. Kristi Noem says then she found out they were spying directly on her.
It was, Elon and his team were extremely helpful to me. They helped me identify that some of my own employees in my department had downloaded software on my phone and my laptop to spy on me.
Stop it.
To record our meetings.
Wow.
They had done that to several of the politicals.
Wow.
And so we ended up bringing in people. And that was something that if you didn't have those technology experts here in the department looking at all of our laptops and our phones and recognizing that kind of software, it would still be happening today. So one of the things I need to do and continue to do is partner with technology companies and experts to bring them in and help us. Because many times in government, and especially in this department, which was extremely neglected, we were just behind and not up to the standard we should be at.
No, we should make some changes. And now the new senator from California, freshman senator, Adam Schiff, is underscoring the fact that it's not us. We're not doing anything wrong. It's the MAGA people and the Trumpers and all the rest of them. And Schiff said, we wanted to go through all the DHS contracting records, Department of Homeland Security, the same thing that Kristi Noem works over, and document just how much they've been spending to militarize a new police force that's causing havoc in our cities. They're obviously talking about ICE, but even more. If ICE disappeared tomorrow, they'd go after the next level, Border Patrol agents in general. They're still there. They're still working. And Kristi Noem is aware of it and how deep the deep state still exists.
The backwards thinking of protecting our country was extremely detrimental to keeping us safe. And many times the deep state, I think what I tell people most of the time is I always believed when people talked about the deep state before that it existed. I never would have dreamed that it was as bad as it is. It is. I'm still every day trying to dig out people who don't love America, that not just work at this department, but also work throughout the federal government.
Yeah, and that's the fear. And yet here comes Adam Schiff again saying, we heard a whistleblower testimony this week that they have cut training for these new ICE agents. They're getting inadequate training on when to use weapons and how to use them. That's a dangerous mix. Now, I'm going to agree with Adam on that, if that's true. If they're cutting training and they're not getting proper training, that needs to be rectified. But why do you think they've been cutting training? Well, because they're trying to get more officers into the streets as fast as they can. And the Democrats are fighting against it, cutting the money and the training time available. I don't want untrained police officers, untrained ICE agents, Border Patrol, whatever. I want them fully trained. But they've been kind of thrown into this mill, and they just have to kind of find their way around. Some of them have good training, some have better, and some obviously need to be improved. I'll be the first to admit that. And the same thing applies to police agencies across the nation, especially where they have been cut repeatedly by the leftists shouting, defund police. And they see the results of it. Now we're looking better and safer across the nation. The left won't admit it, but we really are. But they want to point to a handful of instances where ICE agents might have gone overboard. Shooting Renee Goodman is not one of them. By everything we've seen now, that was a justified shooting. And it never had to happen. All the woman had to do was turn off the ignition, get out of the car. There never would have been a shot fired. The other case involving the male nurse, that's still under investigation. And there'll be other cases that need to be questioned as well. But in the meantime, the left is cheering packs of snow with ice and rock being thrown at New York City police officers. They seem to accept that's acceptable. It's not. If you want to see really where we are right now, Tim Walz makes up a complete piece of fabrication. There should be really not a shock to you, but if I tell you that Minnesota Governor Walz lies, are you surprised?
We've got conspiracy theorist right-wing YouTubers breaking into our daycares, demanding access to our children. We've got the President of the United States demonizing our Somali neighbors and wrongfully confiscating funds that Minnesotans rely on. It's disgusting and it's dangerous.
Well, now, first of all, I don't know if some YouTubers have done what he actually said. If that has happened, that's wrong, if they're breaking in. But we've got members of the left who've been breaking in or trying to break in to ICE detention centers. That's clearly wrong. And we've got these child welfare centers in Minnesota that don't even have children in them. And if he's talking about some of the reports that have been made, they walked in. They had the doors open for them. They didn't break in. There's a difference. The results showing how pathetic things have been administered and working. And there's a Minnesota county sheriff. He says, and I take it back, a Maryland county sheriff. But he echoes this for many sheriffs across the nation because Maryland is, again, one of those sanctuary states.
This is nothing more than politics over public safety. And we as elected sheriffs are fed up with it. You don't see this many sheriffs in one location in the state at any given time. But we have to come together in unison to stop the ridiculousness that's going on up here in Annapolis, Maryland. And lawmakers need to wake up and realize Marylanders and the American people want public safety over politics, and they're not getting it.
That's true. And police all across the nation are aware of it. They're constantly still being demonized. Have you heard the left stand up on behalf of our police and say respect law and order? They're putting all their focus, their hate, into ICE agents. But they'll turn back to the standard police officer on the beat. I want to go back over something I'd mentioned earlier, and that is that both now Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton testifying before a congressional committee in a deposition. Bill Clinton being the first president to ever do that. And Hillary came out and said, well, I had no idea of any criminal activities. I never even encountered Mr. Epstein, never flew on his island. She said, I answered every question they gave me as fully as I could. I knew Ghislaine simply as an acquaintance. Other than that, I don't know anything about Jeffrey. So she was asked, well, what about Bill? She threw him under the bus. She was so quick to throw him on the bus. What about Bill's relationship? You'd have to ask him. She offered no defense for him. None. You have to ask him. You know why? Because she has already been scorned and publicly humiliated a few years ago when Bill denied having sex with a woman in the White House and had his staff surrounding him and her beside him while he proclaimed, I'm innocent. This is a witch hunt. Well, we know how that turned out, don't we? What could happen next week on that? Or with Iran over the weekend? We will be here for you Monday, 6 o'clock. Book it. As always, I do appreciate you listening and supporting our sponsors. They keep us on the air. And remember our pledge, one nation under God.